Welcome to the Top Order podcast. It's Binksy and Raj with you this evening to talk about just a couple of games in this IPL 2024. We'll talk a little bit of LSG Mumbai. We'll also talk CSK and the Punjab Kings. And we'll have my initial reactions to the England T20 squad announcement. And Raj is going to give us his view on the India squad announcement as well. All coming up on the Top Order podcast. Stay tuned. Well, mate, just me and you this evening. It's a rare combination on the Top Order podcast, and one that I know that the listeners have been commenting for left, right, and centre. We recorded Monday night, didn't we? Did the power rankings, and I think look relatively similar to the form in the tournament and the table this time round as we get 11, 12 games into the tournament now. But we have had a couple of games, I guess, over the course of the last 2 days that we might just take a little delve into. And then, look, I guess we're not going to do full sort of squad previews or anything like that because we will do that prior to the T20 World Cup. But I think, obviously, IPL form playing a pretty decent factor in some of the selections in the India squad. Maybe less so in the England squad, but we'll talk a little bit about that. But shall we start with looking at the last couple of games, I guess, which, if we do it in sort of order, May the 1st was Mumbai and the LSG. So a rarity from this IPL, a low-scoring fixture. Mumbai LSG. What have we learnt from? Yeah, what have we learnt from that? Other than Mumbai are even further gone in the tournament.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm probably a little bit harsh to say something like I felt like Mumbai played that game defeated. Definitely the first part anyway. When it came to their batting, they were 30 for 4, from the within the power play, or maybe even from the whole power play. I'm not quite sure, but they just never really got going. Kept losing wickets. Run a ball efforts by Kishan and Wadira to try and put a competitive score on, and Tim David actually finished the innings off really, really strong. Again, to at least get them close to that 150 mark. But look, it's just not close enough not big enough from what we've seen at this IPL so far. I don't really want to take anything away from the LSG bowling effort was very, very good. Mosen looked incredible with the ball first up and through the middle there, and it was really good to see Mayank Yadav back, that sort of extra pace bowler that they've got there, sending some rockets down, and then the spinners able to control it through the middle, just with Mumbai in trouble. But all round, just a good bowling effort from this LSG side, which it's good to see. During the course of this IPL so far, there's been times where we've just gone, look, they just look a bowler short, and they just look really good today, or a couple of days ago.
And LSG taking the chase really, really deep as well, so that they won in the final over. A reflection on the pitch, a reflection on the game, a reflection that we probably did see the ball up on the bat for probably one of the first times in the tournament.
Yeah, definitely. I think chasing that 144, great scenario for a batsman like KL Rahul, to be honest. But they made that chase look easy actually until about sort of 30 runs to go, and they just lost a few wickets. I would say that I put this down to good bowling slash bad batting in the first innings, and then probably a good chase, and then, I don't know, faltered towards the end there. They should have done better to close that out. KL Rahul's dismissal was probably not what he wanted, sort of trying to put one over the boundary when really a single would have done at that time. Stoinis is 62 off 45, really batted within himself. Good chase. I'm excited for LSG. They're sort of 3 wins from 4 now. They're really getting some momentum at the right stage of the tournament. I think there was nothing that wrong with the chase. They just sort of faltered towards the end there, but I think they had it in hand most of the way.
Yeah, and I guess that puts LSG third in the table at least. That have played a game more than Sunrisers and both the Royals and the Knight Riders as well, and they play, I think, the Knight Riders next. So if I'm right in thinking, they do. And then the Sunrisers. So 2 really key games, but I know you're a massive fan of the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think this does spell? Does this see Lucknow get into those playoff spots for you? This, not necessarily just this win, but the position that this win's put them in the tournament?
I actually think that they've got a good chance to make it into these playoffs with momentum, as we said. They are playing KKR and the Sunrisers. those are two teams that are Kolkata's probably going to be through, and Sunrisers are fighting for that third, fourth spot if they can make it. It's going to tell us a lot about how good they actually are. On the Sunrisers, even though they've got a game in hand, they have to play Rajasthan as well as LSG. So, going by form, they're possibly going to lose the next one against Rajasthan, which will still leave them a game behind Lucknow at this late stage of the tournament. Lucknow, yeah, they're in a good position. If I was them, I'd be happy they're in control of their own destiny.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask you a little bit about Mumbai?
Yeah.
What do you make of them? I mean, obviously, the squads have come out all round. I think everyone really is just looking forward to moving on to the World Cup. They played a little bit like that today, or a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Look, it's been a really, I don't think it's an overstatement to say it's a really disappointing tournament for them. And I think particularly, I think back, this has gone quite quickly, but we talked about them, certainly with the bookmakers being one of the favourites leading into the tournament. We've talked a lot about the change of captain and, has that had any impact? But then, I don't think we've really seen Ishan Kishan get going. We've not seen Rohit get going. We've seen the middle order, Tim David, we talked about him on the power rankings on Monday. He converts so often for a guy that's coming in, and he's got that job of facing, 18, 24 balls or whatever and going at a strike rate somewhere in the 200s. He keeps doing it. But they've not had that support from the top of the order, and they've not really had anyone to back up Jasprit Bumrah from a bowling perspective. So it's going to be really interesting to see, particularly with, and I know it's a cliche, we don't see a lot of patience from their owners, that they wear their hearts on the sleeve, and that's cool, but we see Rob McElhinney and Ryan Reynolds do the same when they're watching their beloved Wrexham play football now as well. But we see their hearts on their sleeve, and I just wonder what's going to happen in that kind of boardroom and some of the personnel, and whether or not they make any radical changes. I don't know whether it's personnel or atmosphere. Look, I really don't know what the answer is, but they're in a spot of bother and probably need to make some decisions as they go into the next auction.
It's a very interesting one because they made that sort of big change with Cam Green for Hardik Pandya there, and I think they would have thought that they're in a net positive position from where they were last year, and it just hasn't eventuated like that. It's weird because we talked a lot about their batting being good and their bowling letting them down. On this occasion, it was the other way around. The bowlers actually turned up. Jasprit Bumrah, 16 dot balls out of his 24 is pretty impressive. Hardik got some better returns, and Piyush Chawla as well, just ever reliable through the middle there. Yeah, they just haven't been able to put a complete game together, and I think that's something that they're going to have to look at, consistency and how they can get more of it. I don't have the answers for them, but there's some smart people there. I'm sure that they will have a plan for next year.
Let's move on and talk a little bit of CSK. So just when we were saying they were, I guess, coming good at the right time, they go down to the Punjab Kings, batting first, and again, a game with, in the context of this tournament, relatively low scores. We saw just about, 8 and a bit and over across the course of this game. Put a dent in their playoff hopes, do you think?
Yes, I think that they are in a little spot of bother, especially around personnel. It's, we talked a lot last week. I talked about how they timed their innings really, really well to get to that 210 score, sort of twice in a row, and that's the sort of blueprint going forward. Again, here they reverted to how they batted maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, where they looked to bat a bit within themselves. They were 106 for 3 in the 16th over, like that. That's slow in any sort of 2020 tournament. They did well to accelerate to 163 actually from that point after losing another wicket. Gaikwad, another good innings from him, 62 off 48, but perhaps was a little bit slow if I'm being a bit critical. Was in a holding pattern there when they were about 70 for 3 after 10 overs. But yeah, they just seem to lose that sort of aggression going after the bowling early, where they have been doing that in their last 2 fixtures. on Dhoni Watch. Me and Stu love Dhoni Watch. Out for the first time in this tournament, run out off the last ball. There was a 6-over cover that he hit that is going to be a strong contender for the turquoise hat this year.
For
Yeah,
this year,
what did you make of it?
Yeah, look, I guess probably I'll come at it from from a bowling perspective. So I think if I kind of look at, we give a lot of credit, I think, to batters through the course of this tournament. When you've got two spinners that have gone for under 4 and a bits and over, in Harpreet Brar and Rahul Chahar, that for me was the difference really. Sometimes you will get someone that goes for 4 and over or 4.5 and over in a T20. Very rarely do you see a scorecard where there's actually 3 bowlers. If you look at Kagiso Rabada up top, I thought was really impressive. 9 dots in his analysis, and going for under 6s. So when you've got 3 bowlers doing that, that really puts you in a pretty strong position. And then look, the batters took that down for Punjab Kings. We talked about Johnny Bairstow from an England perspective. Really pleased to see him now string a couple of scores together after being left out a couple of games ago. So I think we've talked a lot about batting and purple caps and yellow caps and all these kind of caps. It's really, really nice to see is it the orange cap wearer, the bowler?
Purple.
No, that's the batting one, isn't it? Purple's the bowling. Yeah, I get mixed up with purple and turquoise, Raj. But yeah, really, really nice, I think, to see spin playing a role in the tournament. To be honest, we're probably the wrong 2 on the podcast to be talking about that. Stu and Bordy would have been fizzing to talk. Yeah, a bit of leg spin and a bit of slow left arm. But yeah, that's really where I saw that game won for Punjab rather than the clinicality of their batting. But chasing 160 odd, they were always going to do that. You would have thought.
From a Punjab Kings perspective, I have been quite vocal about their performance, especially in the first half of the tournament. But this was a different kind of performance from them. You mentioned there about Rabada, he was good, but for me the story is those spinners through the middle there, Chahar and Harpreet Brar. They really had the ball on the string. If you actually watched the wicket that Rahul Chahar got, it actually spun very quickly. You had batsmen coming forward to a ball and missing it by quite a mile and getting hit on the pad. So it shows us that the pitches are actually still quite hard but taking spin. So it's a very, very good sign for those teams that have invested in their spin and for the rest of the tournament. From a chasing perspective in the second innings, it was really controlled chasing only 8s. But what they've done differently to previously in the tournament is they just really batted well in partnerships all the way through the innings. They didn't go bang, bang. It was a real sort of professional chase. And look, I think Punjab would have beaten a lot of sides the way they played today. Consistency, as we've mentioned throughout the whole tournament, is their sort of enemy. They haven't been able to produce this sort of performance consistently, and it was a very good performance.
Yeah. And we'd say too little too late from them. They're kind of a game back, aren't they, from Sunrisers and certainly the Royals and the Knight Riders. So very difficult for them to wrestle their way back in, you would have thought.
And the negative net run rate is not helpful either. So yeah. I think they will struggle to make it back, but they have put their best foot forward in the last 2 games, definitely with the bat in the 2 games ago and then all round in this sort of last game.
Awesome.
Just before we move on, I just wanted to talk about CSK and their sort of roster worries going forward. As you mentioned, we talked about the big momentum shift the other way. They've lost 3 from their last 4. Patirana and Thikshana are heading back to Sri Lanka for their visa stuff ahead of the World Cup. They should be back before the next game on the 5th, but it's still a risk. Imagine they can't get back in time. Mustafiza has left the tournament to link up with the Bangladeshi side, and then now the injury to Deepak Chahar, who only bowled 2 balls in that opening over of the innings. The bowling looks very, very light all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. And then when we talk about their batting woes and how things changed from sort of last week to this week, Daryl Mitchell was batting at 8, which I found really, really a surprise. Stephen Fleming did have sort of reasons for that, but I think they should have stuck to the sort of blueprint that was working. I feel like they got themselves into a little bit of trouble, sending out Dubé with a little bit more work to do than he's used to. And then, Daryl Mitchell was the one who sort of ended up getting pushed further and further down the order when Moeen and Dhoni can come in and do that sort of closer role. So it's disappointing to see that from a New Zealand perspective, seeing Daryl Mitchell pushed down like that, and he dropped a hard catch as well in the field. But look, I'm really concerned about the bowling unit of this CSK team going forward because of those injuries and the people leaving the squad all of a sudden and coming back and all of that change.
Yeah, and look, I think we're gonna talk a hell of a lot about personnel in the next 3 or 4 weeks. As we go through the tournament, we know that there's going to be some players leaving to link up with their international sides ahead of the World Cup. You mentioned some injuries as well. And look, I'm sure when we do the kind of wrap of this tournament, regardless of who lifts the trophy and the turquoise cap and all that kind of stuff, we're going to have some conversations about the window and the format and availability of players. And I know we've definitely seen some comments on our social media to that effect as well. Which segues quite nicely. We talked a little bit about the New Zealand squad on the podcast on Monday on our Power Rankings pod, but as we were going through that recording, we were getting the old pings on Cricinfo. The South African squad had come out, the England squad had come out, and now the India squad has come out. I think, you heard it here first on the top order that Sanju Samson was going to get into that 15. Our BCCI press credential news alerts had helped us out there. But yeah, Pant, Dubé, Samson, all in the squad. No massive surprises, I guess, but certainly some talking points with Shubman Gill, a reserve. I guess still that question mark around Pant and his injury in that pretty bad car accident. So we expected to see him in the squad, but any other key talking points for you, particularly maybe around those reserves and those 50-50 calls that they might have had to make?
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine other teams that would be able to leave a player like Shubman Gill out of their top 15 anyway, let alone their top 11. I think, you'll never not like an Indian 2020 side. They could pick like 3 squads and probably have the cream of the 2020 cricket crop anyway. My big thoughts around this Indian side, I'm happy they included Dubé in there, but I'm actually concerned that they might be a bowler light, definitely a fast bowler light. We saw this in the sort of limited overs, the one-day World Cup, where their tail was just very, very long. I think in sort of an average sort of 11 that they might pick, they've got from 8, they've got Kuldeep, Jasprit, Ashdeep Singh and Siraj, making up this sort of bottom four places, and you're relying on Hardik and Jadeja perhaps above them to sort of close out a game or even take over if the top order falters a little bit. I think there's a little bit. They look a little bit more penetrable than I think that they have in the past, just from a makeup perspective. I'm concerned about Ashdeep Singh, Siraj, and Pandya being the only fast bowlers in the side aside from Jasprit Bumrah. Those 3 have really struggled of late, and I think they're possibly one fast bowler short. They included Chahal, they included Jaiswal rather than perhaps bringing in a Avish Khan or something like that from a fast bowling perspective. But look, it's hard to sort of count the Indian side out or look at their weaknesses like that. They're still a very good side. They'll put up massive scores and be able to rip through sides if they can find the ball swinging a little bit and turning. I'm unsure what kind of pitches we're going to turn up to in the Caribbean and the US, but overall a good side. But I do think that there are a couple of little chinks in the armour.
Yeah, look, we'll definitely come on to it, I think, in the previous show, but the squad size of 15 really doesn't give you a lot of options, does it? I think, probably Chahal and Jaiswal, as you say, probably the 2 that you might think about swapping for that extra seamer. I guess you've got the ability to bring someone in with, from an injury perspective, so it might be that they think they're only going to play 2 of those 3 seamers and always have 1 spare and go in with Jadeja and Axar and definitely Kuldeep, and then there's a bit of a balanced conversation, and we talked about Panja being really key there with the probably with with a newish ball. But yeah, look, I guess we'll see.
You're right. I kind of left out Aksha there. If he plays and bats 8, that probably solves a few issues. But it's whether those pitches are going to be conducive to probably having 3 spinners. If you always want to select Kuldeep, you'll have Jadeja. Aksha, is he going to be a spare part of sorts in that sort of lineup? I don't know. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Should we move across to the English side?
Yeah.
You put down on paper what you thought the English side was going to look like. What do you make of them? I'll just ask you a quick question off the top there. I look back at the 2022 World Cup squad, and I thought that, England were my pick from the beginning. They were going to go all the way. They were going to win it. I felt like they were impenetrable. They didn't really have many weaknesses. There's no Stokes in this one, which is a big thing for me, and there's no Root. He wasn't there in 22 either, but those big sort of household names are not there. What do you make of the squad?
Yeah, look, I think they've known for a long, long time that Ben Stokes, I don't think was going to be there. I would imagine those conversations have been ongoing. Root's not been in and around that side for a long, long time now, and look, I know he's not been shy in saying that he wants to be a 3 format player, but you've probably got to think now, unless they have a real reset after this and play a completely different type of cricket, it's unlikely we'll see too much of him in the T20 format for England at least. I'm sure it might be part of the swan song of his career from a franchise perspective, because I think we've seen that you've still got the ability for players like that to prosper in this game. But realistically, there's no massive surprises in this England squad. I think there was probably that choice, and again, they're not quite the same player, but there was probably a choice between Chris Jordan and Chris Wokes, and I think they've favoured Chris Jordan maybe as a death bowling option, because we've still got some question marks around Jofra Archer's fitness, and probably Jordan does edge Wokes definitely in terms of his 6 hitting capability. Whether or not you'd say he's a better batsman or not, I still think Wokes is a pretty good all-rounder, but probably more so in the 50 over and test match format for England. And then probably the only other choice that they really had was, there's probably 2. Number 1 was whether Rian Ahmed went as the spinner. He went to the West Indies, but Tom Hartley's performance in that test series, and I think the fact that he was discovered in white ball cricket, so, picked really out of the Lancashire Blast team, and his 100 or the 100 franchise as well. I think that's probably seen him ahead of Rian Ahmed, and I actually quite like that. And then I think the other one was just where they might go from a seam bowling perspective. They've liked Topley for a long time, and they've probably had Tamal Mills on the depth chart for that. And look, I think with Wood and Archer being, relatively interchangeable, that squad really, really, picked itself. The question mark for me, Ben Duckett as the spare batter in that squad, I think can offer an opportunity at the top of the order if they need him, but that would mean that the tournament's gone off the rails or there's an injury, I think. And then, the only other question for me is, where they go from a batting order perspective. But I'd expect to see Butler, Salt, and Jacks 1, 2, and 3. Probably Bairstow at 4, Brook at 5, and then cram the all-rounders in.
So I got a couple of questions, and I'm probably focusing on the bowling side as well. Just firstly, with the seam perspective, do you see Archer, Topley, and Wood playing in the same side? That would probably mean, or possibly mean, Sam Curran might miss out, or Sam Curran's a fixture.
I think Sam Curran's a fixture. They've invested a lot of time in him. I think, again, the beauty is Jofra Archer can bowl at the top, he can bowl in the middle, and he can bowl at the end. But I think if we go back to that 2022 World Cup win for England in Australia, Sam Curran was quality. He really was with the ball. So I think, they're rewarding that performance over a long period of time. He's not had a stellar IPL, but I'd say he's had a solid IPL. So look, I think he offers quite a lot into that side. So I don't necessarily think we'll see Archer, Wood, and Topley all play together unless there's a pitch that's going to be really, really conducive to that. And from what we've seen of West Indies wickets over the course of the last wee while, I don't think we're going to see anything that resembles the kind of thing that Ambrose and Walsh and Marshall and Patrick Patterson were running in on 25 years ago. We're going to see spin play a really, really big part, and we're going to see those guys with the ability to take the pace off as seam bowlers be the ones that prosper.
And I guess from a spin perspective, with Moeen Ali being sort of awarded the vice captaincy, what role does Tom Hartley play? Do you think that he can play in a three-pronged spin attack, or I mean, it's probably horses for courses kind of discussion as you just spoke about with the seamers, but is Tom Hartley really there to is he going to be, if I'm rude, going to be there to mix the drinks more often than not?
Yeah, look, I absolutely probably think he is there as the spare spinner, if you like. But I think that there's probably going to be a conversation at some point around a matchup. Who's obviously the only left arm option, so that might be something that they look at. I think they really like Liam Livingstone. I've said on the pod before, he's not not someone that I would pick. I'd be picking Moeen Ali ahead of Liam Livingstone. I know Livingstone can kind of run in and bowl a leg break as well as an off break, but I'd rather see someone that bowls and has taken 200 wickets with off breaks in my side as a guy that can only spin it one way, so to speak, with Moeen Ali. And I think he offers a similar amount of power with the bat as Livingstone. Slightly different type of player. He's a bit more classical batsman, but we've seen some of his little cameos for CSK. But yeah, I think that means that Tom Hartley's really there as the spare. Yeah, the spare option. And look, I just hope, obviously, Adil Rashid is fit. He's not played cricket for a little while, which, may be good or bad, but, he's had that ongoing shoulder problem. So he's the guy that spins the ball away from the bat, the right-hander's bat, I suppose, as well as Hartley. But you'd expect to see him being the starting first spinner on the list.
Do England have they have a series this month, don't they? 2020 series?
Yeah, so they're playing Pakistan. Which, I think they start the series. They only get one game in before the 25th of May deadline for teams to name their final squad. So I don't think we'll see, any bolters from England.
From a Jofra Archer perspective, and looking at the Pakistan series, is him just bowling balls and not getting injured the sort of what you want to see from him? Or are you actually going to go, I need to see him actually trouble some batsmen, start taking some wickets, not bowl rubbish?
Yeah, look, I think I'm going to sit on the fence and say a bit of both. I think we obviously want to see him probably come through a game or two, unscathed. But I think we're going to want to make sure that we can see from an eye test perspective whether that zip's there, whether that confidence in his elbow is there. And, realistically, the radar gun's going to do that job for us. I think if we see him in the high 130s or early 140s, there's a concern there that what we really need him to be able to do is do what we know he can do and bowl in those high 140s, because that's where he's going to be really, really dangerous, I think, in the Caribbean. But yeah, a little bit of both. We want to see him get through without any niggles, without sort of them being too concerned about whether he's got a role to play throughout the tournament, because he'll need to be ready to go throughout the course of the tournament, particularly with Mark Wood. Both of them have got some, I don't know what the phrase is, but that they don't always back up particularly well, particularly if they've got games close together. So we need one of those two to be available and fully fit all the way through the course of the tournament.
I agree.
Awesome. Well, look, nice to chat. Bit of IPL and a little bit of World Cup as well. As we mentioned, we will be in the feed probably towards the end of May, won't we, with regard to that that preview of the T20 World Cup. But lots and lots of cricket to come before then. We're going to have at least two or three of these England guys not playing any further part in the tournament in the playoff stages, at least. So can expect to see Joss Buttler, Phil Salt, and maybe a couple of others missing some playoff games, and then obviously some players that like the likes of Johnny Bairstow we won't see again anyway in the tournament, because they're probably not going to make those final stages. But we will be back on Monday with the power rankings on the Top Order podcast. But from me and Raj, it is good night and God bless. We're off to scour the internet for turquoise cap nominees.